answers His Highness that obviously he is the highest being in the state of the Great Tao, but he is not at all arrogant, which is admirable. Next, the mate of the main character enters into the conversation, adding to the conversation that His Highness has a rather modest and gentle character, despite the fact that he is powerful. A couple of moments after this, we again move onto the street to this guy who still can't sit in one place. Judging by his McGregor gait, he's ready to solve problems. Pointing his finger at himself, he announces that he is Su Yu, and today he is challenging the true disciples. He asks everyone who of them dares to fight him. A couple of moments after this statement, our main character immediately draws attention to this external student. Looking at him, he realizes that he can't sit in one place. The crowd sees in this guy only an unbridled tone, and a servant who dares to provoke true students into a duel. Everyone thinks that he is simply looking for death, and does not understand what he is talking about. Next, the old man wonders what kind of outrage this is, because the guy is in the outer circle of students, and he has not even passed the exam for the inner student. But he is already challenging the true student. After the others hear that the person standing in front of them is just an outer sect disciple, one of the crowd calls him sick, and probably he just wants to become famous in front of His Highness. Another guy from the crowd with silver hair just can't help but point his finger at this klutz, telling him to get out of here immediately and not continue to disgrace himself. Next, the guy asks the top, what is the difference between the king and the general? Because the fact that he is an external student does not mean anything. He will still be able to beat anyone who comes out to fight with him. Looking at this guy, he realizes that he is behaving impudently. For sure, he is one of those who achieve heights by killing, but he is a child of fate, so it's like giving away points of fate for nothing. A couple of moments after Wuken thinks about this guy, he decides to ask Qing'an, who is sitting next to him, if she knows this guy, because he also has the same last name as hers. In response to this direct question from our hero, this girl replies that he is a disciple of Shenhua Peak, but more importantly, that he is a servant of this charming waifu. Pointing to herself, the girl continues to say that initially this time he was aimed at the place of the internal student. She did not expect that he would be so arrogant. While our main character was listening to the mistress of this arrogant student, he was thinking that if he is a servant, then it is not surprising that he has such a strong desire to show himself off in front of everyone. Next, our main hero tells the head of the sect that since this disciple really wants to challenge the true disciple of this sect, then let him try, because there is nothing special about it. Further, the head, addressing the student, tells him that since he wants to challenge a true student, they will give him a chance. He asks the stands who wants to take the fight. A couple of moments later, we watch a cosplay of young Orochimaru from Naruto emerge from the crowd, turning to this guy and asking him for permission to go against him. After the crowd sees Shu Xian, a true disciple of Tianhui Peak, enter the arena, they understand that because elder brother Shu came forward, this Su Yu was unlucky. After all, they understand that the one who goes into battle practices the green-blue seventh flame, one of the 10 great divine powers of the Tianyu sect. He will die if he even touches it even a little. Standing in front of the outer circle disciple, he calls him a petty servant who dared to challenge the true disciple of the sect. He is surprised by his insane arrogance. Before finally starting the fight, this young Orochimaru allows a student from the outer circle to admit his mistake in front of him. And in this case, he will still be able to spare his life. This student was very annoyed that there was someone even more arrogant than him. He wondered what kind of nonsense he was. If he kills him today, then the place of a true student will go to him. Immediately after this, Morlodio Orochimaru heard that his opponent was not going to give up. He immediately used a technique called the seventh flame of Chinbi. Immediately after he finished concentrating his energy to perform a powerful attack on his opponent, he sent a multitude of magical flame projectiles at him. Despite the fact that a huge number of powerful projectiles that were capable of killing him were flying at this ordinary student of the outer circle right now, he calmly stood on the counter. Then we didn't see what happened because the shells of this young Orochimaru collided with something, and an incredibly powerful explosion occurred, due to which the visibility zone was limited. This true disciple believed that this insignificant slave really wanted to kill him, but he could succeed either in his dreams or in another life altogether, but certainly not in this. He also told this guy that he could consider that he was allowed to die from his seventh Qingbi flame, because it is a worthy death from a divine technique. But a couple of moments after the smoke from the last attack cleared, we saw that this guy survived, and moreover, he reported that the level of his mentor's brother greatly disappointed him. After this true disciple realized that his previous attack did not cause any damage, but a couple of moments after the smoke from the last attack cleared, we saw that this guy survived, and moreover, he reported that the level of his mentor's brother greatly disappointed him. After this true disciple realized that his previous attack did not cause any damage, he simply could not believe it, because his most powerful attack did not even leave a scratch on this idiot. Next, this guy told his rival that he had already chosen his death, because from today in this world there will only be a true student, and this student will only be him. Immediately after this guy said this pathetic phrase, his body was even more enveloped in flames and he squeezed his jacket very tightly in order to attack. Another moment of war passes, and we watch how this guy amazingly closes the distance to his opponent in the blink of an eye. He remembered the guy that he called him a pathetic slave. Immediately after this guy with red hair sufficiently shortened the distance to his opponent, he swung hard to remind his opponent where his place was. A couple of moments after this, he struck with lightning speed without giving his opponent a single chance to escape the blow. Upon impact, he shouted to his opponent that he was pissing him off. Next, we observe how after this true disciple received a blow from this disciple right in the stomach, he gradually began to look like a zombie, and not a person. The blow was so strong that the force of this blow was enough for this guy's opponent to fly into a mountain that was quite far away. Moreover, his opponent was slammed into this mountain. Everyone was shocked by a servant with such a high level of cultivation. After all, he only had the cultivation of the moving mountain realm. But he defeated the one who was in the middle of the heavenly abode realm. Immediately after this guy honestly defeated a true disciple, he began to laugh because the trash used some kind of 7th King Bee flame, hoping to defeat him with this. This guy continued to taunt the enemy whom he had already defeated in every possible way. He added that he could swat him like a mosquito with just one blow. Apparently, the bald head with a mustache was most surprised by the outcome of the duel, who believed that in his immortal Tianyu sect, there is a promising talent who has incredible talent. Meanwhile, our main character, who all this time was just watching what was happening, decided that the time had come for him to personally come out to speak, because his time had come. Next, Wukan told the head of the sect that he did not know that the immortal Tanyu sect is strong in the art of improving the body, because previously he had only heard about those who teach the Tao of the Sword. In response to this, the head thoughtfully replied that the immortal Tanyu sect has always revered the art and Tao of the Sword, and has never mastered the art of improving the body. So this is a little wrong. In response to this, our protagonist said that this budding talent is full of vitality and has a strong body. He should have practiced excellent techniques to pump up his body. After a couple of moments, we are transported back to the student who was able to defeat a true student. Now he understood that from now on, no one would ever dare to look down on him. Next, our main Garyo asked the waifu nearby whether the dirty person whom she just recently called her servant was engaged in cultivation or something or not. Waifu immediately replied that her servant never got involved in this because he was an ordinary house servant and began to cultivate only after she brought him to the immortal sect. In response to this, our main character replied that this method of burning blood in order to increase his own chi energy and strength definitely reminds him of someone he knows. Wukan continued by saying that back then, having only the realms of the cycle of samsara, he used the power of his physical body to defeat the realm of the Tao body with physical force. Our main hero continued the story about who he remembered, saying that after that battle when he made this move, he was very seriously wounded, after which he should have died. The girl was in shock, because His Highness really meant by his story the great demon who raged 300 years ago as the ancestor of the bloody Kanmi, because he fits the description. The head of the immortal sect continued by saying that the ancestor of the Bloodstone knew how to harden his flesh by making bloody sacrifices, and his new skills in pumping himself and his body were exceptionally strong. Immediately after the two finished talking about this famous demon, they simultaneously wondered whether Su Yu had really taken over the legacy of the bloody Kanya fart. A couple of moments later, this guy who had recently won a bet in front of all the true students noticed that they had completely stopped paying attention to him. He involuntarily looked at the podium. This guy was very angry at the fact that our main character Senwoa was telling them something, because his lady Su Qinghan should only look at him with admiration without exception. After the guy realized that they were not paying attention to him, he loudly asked who else would dare to fight one-on-one with him, because if there are any today, he will fight with everyone. At this moment, the head of the sect understood that the obstinate character, willful and arrogant, all these qualities are the same as those of the ancestor of the bloody Kanya at one time, which means that Wukan's guess is brilliant. A couple of moments after our main hero, with the help of his 200 IQ, revealed the secret, his villain system announced that Su Yu's rise was interrupted, and he lost 100 QE points of fate. After our main character managed to plant the seeds of suspicion, he was going to see what would happen next and how all these events would develop further after his intervention. Immediately after our main hero composed this monologue, a system notification appeared again for the fact that the owner's speech penetrates into the very heart. For this, he receives as many as 2,000 villain points. A couple of moments later, we watched as the bald head of this sect approached the edge of the stands to look strangely at this guy, because now he began to suspect him. The guy immediately noticed that everyone was looking at him. He wondered if the Imperial Prince, seeing his incredible talent, wanted to recruit him for his own purposes. But instead of confessing, the bald man shouted at this guy, asking him how dare he use wicked path techniques in his Tianyu sect. He ordered the guy to fall to his knees. The guy was simply shocked by such a baseless accusation. He stated that he himself fought and won thanks to his abilities. Then why does he need to fall to his knees? The head of this immortal sect continued by telling the guy that his QI and blood are in full swing, and they are significantly superior to the master of the moving mountain kingdom. which means the guy took over someone's heritage to reach the level. As soon as the head of the sect said this, rumors began to spread throughout the crowd that this guy does not use the techniques of the immortal Tianyu sect. But they said about him that his body cannot be so strong. After accusations rained down on him from all sides, he realized that he actually received the map of the spirit of the underworld from a dying person. So it's true, he inherited it from another. After a couple of moments, the head of this sect apparently ran out of patience and pointed his hand with a charged technique at the guy, asking him if he dared to answer the question. Immediately after the head of this immortal sect realized that he would not hear a clear answer from the Narpville, his technician, nay that guy, told him that in this case he would go to hell. After this bald head of this land directed his strange technology at this guy, some strange magic enveloped his body, after which he immediately fell to his knees against his will. Immediately after a few seconds had passed, this guy began to take quite a lot of damage. He realized that now he was crushed and could not move. After this previously confident and maybe still confident dude realized that he was in a shitty situation, he again tried to use the card of the afterlife Amir. As soon as this guy put a seal just like in Naruto with one hand, a golden scroll appeared in the air, which was enveloped in powerful magical impulses of golden color. But a few moments pass and we watch as the master of this sect is not going to just stand on the podium, so he rushes into this guy at amazing speed. After the head of this sect decides to so openly attack a disciple of his sect, the disciple has no choice but to try to keep his distance from the head. But a couple of moments after this dude seemed to be in a safe location, we see that he still received serious damage from the attack of a bald man. In truth, the head of the sect was surprised that the guy was able to withstand one of his blows, which means that he actually took over the Bloodstone ancestor who was a demon. After this man on steroids was finally convinced that in front of him was the one who inherited his powers from the demon, he realized that he simply could not let him leave. Returning to the stands from where all these three were watching, we watch as the mentor of this servant begins to try to get involved in this trial process, because she does not want the death of her servant. But our main hero is right there, and he asks the lady to wait because this issue is still not cleared up, so he advises this girl not to be so
कढ़ाई से लेके गुजियास तक अब मिलेंगे सारे हुलिया एसेंशियल्स मिनटों में with Flipkart Minutes.
सूर्यवंशी यादव सूर्यवंशम यादव सूरज कुमार यादव Are you sure? Not really.
नाम याद आए ना आए, मजे लेना है पॉसिबल. टाटा आईपीएल शुरू हो रहा है 22 मार्च से सिर्फ जियो हॉटस्टार और स्टार स्पोर्ट्स नेटवर्क पर.
reckless and hot-tempered. However, our main character also had motives for this guy to stay alive, because he is still a child of fate, and how can he profit from a sheep if it dies? After our main character stated not very openly that he still needed this guy, the head of this sect said that in this case they would then ruin his life for now. And if he really practices devilish techniques like our main hero and assumed, then he can have no doubt that the immortal Tianyu sect will never forgive him for this. Meanwhile, our main character said that he is one of the Qinghan people, and he believes in the inside of this woman. So if she wants to leave her servant alive, then they must cooperate. After our main character supported this girl immediately thanked him for his support. Vusen replied that it was nothing and it would be good if he could help her. The system notification of our Galvan Argo hero notified him that a change in Su Qinghan's attitude was detected. So Su Yu loses 100 fate points, and Wuchen receives 2,000 villain points. After the guy noticed such a reward from the system, he concluded that it seems that Su Qinghan has a very strong influence on this guy, so he simply has to take advantage of it to earn money. Next, our main hero told Mrs. Kinghan that he still has some unresolved doubts, so he invites this waifu to hold a discussion in the evening. After the same child of fate, who found himself in such a deplorable state, hears that our main hero continues to communicate with his mistress, he gets very angry, squeezing the ground. Looking at the stands, this red-haired dude understands that Su Qinghan and the head were talking with this imperial prince, and then they suddenly attacked him. Surely the prince was involved in this. Next, we watch as this guy immediately rose from the ground to attack our main character. Calling him a bastard, he threatened that he would kill him. At this moment, our main hero was just wondering whether these same type children of fate couldn't change their lines that he constantly hears addressed to him. Next, our main character wondered why he is considered a villain in this world, if they all always shout at him that they will kill him while he is silent. This time, this guy was left by his own mentor. She shut his mouth and asked what kind of devilish technology he was cultivating. She also added that he was very disappointed. At that moment, this guy's gaze became completely different after his own mistress told him that she was developing in him. His world seemed to immediately collapse. Our main player's villain system notified him that Su Qinghan was disappointed in Su Yu, so he loses 100 fate points, and our main character again receives 2,000. Then we watch as the course of events is abruptly interrupted, and we continue when we move to the room of our main character, in which the light is on right now. Immediately after Wuchen found himself in his room, he opened Su Yu's fate window using his system. Now he has the key core of the spirit card of the underworld, and the fate points are only 300. After our main hero saw a map of the underworld, he wondered if this was somehow connected with the great emperor of the underworld. In this case, this is a characteristic 3,000 years ago. After our main character asked himself a question, his system appeared right there, answering him that this is a rare treasure of the great emperor of the underworld. The treasures of his life are stored in it. The system of our main hero continued to explain by saying that, moreover, it also contains one of the paths to his empire, called the Path of the Yellow Springs. After our main hero heard the story about the item that this guy has, he immediately realized that in this case, it is not at all surprising that his cultivation improved so quickly. After Liu Wuchen turns on all his 200 IQ, he will realize that if this guy with such an item is given another year, it will be very difficult to cope with him. Thinking about this, our main hero realized that it looks like his chi points of fate will have to be cut a little more, as he expected. She is really here. We are talking about the Lady Child of Fate. A couple of moments later, we see in front of us the mistress of that same servant who was recently accused by absolutely everyone except himself. She came for the reason that Wuchen had arranged a meeting. Immediately after Wuchen saw this girl, he turned on the attractive Sigma mode and immediately asked Qinghan if something had happened to her. He pretended to be very polite. Meanwhile, this girl immediately blushed and realized that the stranger is like Jade, and the young master is unmatched in the world. His Highness with just a smile makes people feel like spring. Next, this girl bows to our main character and informs him that she came to thank His Highness, because if he had not interceded, her servant and student Su Yu would have been dead. In response to this gratitude, our main hero replies that there was no difficulty in this for him, so it's good that he was able to help Mrs. Qinghan herself at such a difficult moment. Next, this lady remembered the words of our main character that, according to him, he was interested in the Tao of the sword, so she brought him information that she had learned for how many years. Our main character takes this package, which contains knowledge about the Tao of the sword of this girl. He realizes that no one would freely share his understanding of the Tao of the sword. This girl has a big heart. Next, this girl said that it was a great honor for her to receive the approval of His Highness. She stood quite in front of our main character after she gave him the gift. In fact, our main character, or the majestic prince occupying a high position in society, did not expect such courtesy from this girl. The villain system of our Galvango hero immediately notifies him that now this girl named Su Qinghan is not indifferent to him. Su Yu loses 50 points, and Wuchen receives 1,000. Immediately after our main hero reads the text of this notification, he grins and understands after this notification that everything is under his control. Next, our main hero decides to continue the conversation with this little girl. After she gave him such a useful gift, he asked her what she thought about Su Yu. In response to this girl immediately replies that this guy is a servant of her family. He has always been pure and kind, and she does not believe that he could take over the legacy of the bloody slaughter. Next, this girl tells our main hero that she hopes that His Majesty will allow her to ask for an explanation of this incident, for which she receives permission. At this point, the course of events ends abruptly, and we continue when we move back to the chambers of our main hero, and this girl leaves His Highness. Meanwhile, our protagonist's only maid congratulates her master on the fact that he successfully obtained another little sheep at his disposal. Our main character immediately realized that after his maid heard his conversation with that waifu, she immediately began to be jealous. He wondered why he smelled a sour smell. She replied that she definitely didn't dare to be jealous, because His Highness spoke warmly to Su Qinghan. But at first he was merciless towards Yao Chen, so it's a little unfair. In response to this, our main hero immediately approached his maid, after which he took her face and asked her if she had just accused him, or if it seemed to him. In response to this, the celestial goddess replied that she did not dare to accuse His Highness. She also notified him that she had made great progress in her technology. Soon she would reach heights. Our main character told his maid that he knows one ice pool with the help of which she can form her jade body without much difficulty. In response to such kindness from her master, this girl immediately bows to him and thanks His Highness for such good nature towards her. At this moment, this girl realizes that there are more and more women around her master, and therefore she better quickly start cultivating her icy jade body. The course of events is interrupted, and we are transported to a house on Shenhua Peak. Inside this house, they are discussing whether everyone saw how Qinghan had just gone to the palace to see His Highness. One of the speakers was very jealous because from their immortal sect, Sister Su is the only one who is able to get close to our main character. The rest are not given this. Next, we see in front of us a guy who has been very unlucky lately. He understands that he could not touch the hand of his future wife, as she immediately clung to the damn prince. A couple of moments later, the door behind this guy opens sharply and his mentor is visible in it. She tells the guy that she came to see him. Immediately after Su sees his mentor, he spreads his hands to the side and tells her that he did not use any demonic techniques, and she simply must believe him. In response to the desperate howl of her student, This girl replies that he believes his student instead of accusing her. She asks her student where he learned martial arts techniques. After this guy hears such a sharp question from his mentor, he first thinks a little whether he should share such information or not. Then this guy decides to share the secret with his mentor. He tells the girl in front of him that he received the techniques from a dying man. But the girl does not allow this guy to finish his version, and she immediately interrupts him, asking that this is enough, because she believes that he continues to hide it. Pointing at himself with his hand, the guy says that he is speaking Parvda Ved. He really doesn't know who this person is, but there is definitely nothing wrong with the technique that he practices. But this girl doesn't seem to hear her student. She is surprised that he cannot tell the truth even to her, which means everything is as His Highness guessed. He is using demonic technology. In response to this guy can no longer stand the fact that they simply don't listen to him. He turns sharply out of anger that the conversation has turned to the prince again. He shouts that his fate depends on him. Next, the guy reports that the prince relies only on his noble origins. He tells everyone to wait a few years and he will receive this prince's dog gold. In response to this, the teacher Pranya puts her hand on her head and tells the guy that if it weren't for His Highness, he would be dead. She calls him an ungrateful boor. After Sue hears his mentor calling him ungrateful, he clenches his fist, saying that he is in this situation because of the bastard prince who said nonsense. Having shown himself again, this poor guy again asks for support from his mistress, because over time he will be able to become the son of half the sky, which will make him stronger. But in response to this, the girl tells Suyu that she knows where he comes from and how he was bullied. She understands that he hates the powers that be, but the prince, according to her, is different. Then the guy just grins at his mistress. He asks her how the prince differs from the others. Is it really because she will appear in his bed tonight? After this woman hears such words from her student, she just turns around and leaves, finally telling this guy that he is hopeless. She looks at him like he is trash. Before leaving, she says that physical wounds are easy to heal, but heart wounds are difficult, and if Suyu continues to live in the same spirit, he will certainly fall on the devil's path. The guy calls this girl the one who is ready to give up everything for a cardio workout. He realizes that his lady has really fallen into the clutches of the prince. He understands that he must kill Liu Wuchen. Immediately after this guy with red hair unrolls his strange scroll, a huge multimeter blue dragon appears behind him. After this guy finishes summoning the mighty light dragon, he offers him 30 years of his life in exchange for killing Liu Wuchen for him. Even this majestic blue dragon understands that 30 years is a considerable price to pay for such a task. He asks Suyu if he is really confident in his decision. In response to this clarifying question, this guy surrounds himself with an aura and says that if he doesn't kill this bastard, he will not be able to get rid of his incredible hatred. He also asks him not to blame him for not reminding him that he is the son of the great emperor of the immortal Shanhai dynasty, and he is quite powerful. However, this dragon is completely frightened by the status of our gallant hero, because his dragon soul is at rest, and he can kill this guy in his sleep without causing problems to anyone. Immediately after this dragon convinces Suyu that he can easily kill His Highness, he demands in exchange for this human years in life, as he promised. Then we begin to watch as the dragon takes payment in the form of 30 years of this guy's life. We watch as this guy literally loses years of his life. Immediately after this dragon finishes absorbing years of this guy's life, he suddenly falls to his knees. Apparently this was unexpected for him. We observe how this guy's appearance has changed a little, because he just gave up 30 whole years of his life being in the right gender. He tells Liu Wuchen that tonight is the night he will die. At this dramatic moment, the course of events breaks off and we continue when we are transported to the Jade Palace, in which our main hero is currently meditating and doing mewing. Next, we watch as the same ice dragon who agreed to kill our main character for a generous fee quickly heads towards Niyama at great speed. However, this huge ice dragon is not going to attack our main physical hero, after all. His soul has been at rest for a long time, so he moves into the consciousness of this guy. After a couple of moments, in order for us not to be bored, we are transported into the consciousness of Wuchen following this dragon. The prince asks the dragon if Suyu sent him. The dragon spirit tells our protagonist that he quickly sensed his presence, but alas, he is a true god of consciousness, so he can kill him in an instant. But after Liu Wuchen hears that this spirit can kill him in a second, he just smirks and says that he might still deserve mercy if he becomes his. After this majestic dragon, the god of consciousness, hears that our main hero so brazenly wants to get him, he prepares to kill him because he asked for it himself. Next, we will watch how this god of creation gets into a stance and directs a huge ball of fire at our main hero, which flies rapidly. But our main character, judging by his calm face, is not at all embarrassed by this huge fireball in front of his face. Instead, he looks at the dragon and calls him a non-entity. Meanwhile, our hero's eye begins to glow bright red, and he uses the holy body of the Elder Dragon, a skill called Manifestation. As soon as our main hero used this skill that he had not used before, a multi-meter fire dragon immediately appeared behind him, and was ready to fight. Immediately after the dragon god Sozaninya sees this dragon behind our main character, he suddenly becomes less confident in himself, because he saw the Elder Dragon. The roles are completely changing. Now our main hero is a real predator and this dragon is a victim. Liu Wuchen asks this insignificant dragon if he really decided to threaten him. This dragon is simply in shock. He asks this madman why the hell the aura of the elder dragon emanates from him, which scares him very much because the elder dragon disappeared decades ago. In response to this remark, our main hero replies that he is confident that his dragon powers will be amazing in his hands. He directs his stand at this dragon. After this dragon realizes that he is not in the edit but in complete shit, he begins to beg our main character for mercy. He is ready to do anything. To save his dragon skin, he offers our main character to help in the murder of Su Yayu. He can help him cultivate the divine manuscript and find the Emperor's treasures. But our main hero doesn't care at all about all the proposals of this dragon who dared to threaten him. He informs him that he has already missed his chance to get mercy. At this moment, our main character's strength increases many times, and he again uses the holy body of the elder dragon to use the destruction skill. After our main hero, with the help of the holy spirit of the terrible dragon, uses this incredibly powerful light destruction skill, we observe huge consequences. After the smoke from our protagonist's attack clears, we watch the defeated dragon of consciousness slowly dissipate and blame Su Yu for his loss. At this point, we leave the consciousness of our main hero and continue when we find ourselves at the Divine Peak in a side residence late at night on the street. Next, we see this Su Yu who is hoping that our main character will die tonight in exchange for his years of life. He does not understand what happened, but he feels that the dragon of Acheron has died. This guy simply cannot believe what happened because it was the pet of Emperor Acheron. At this moment, he wonders if the heavens themselves have really turned against him. Moving back to the palace, we see our main hero who has finished his meditation session. A notification notifies him that Su Yu's life expectancy has been reduced. Su Yu loses as many as 100 fate points. The second notification is that the dragon of Acheron has died, so Su Yu has lost another 100 points. Now instant kill is available to him. The last notice is that the holy body of the elder dragon Wuchen has been improved by 15%. He understands that Su Yang lost even before he started playing. Next, our main character with a villainous grin on his face understands that the time has finally come to take away the guy's last remaining 150 points. One more moment of war, and we watch as his teenage servant appears in the guy's chambers, who immediately apologizes to his master for being a little late. At this moment, the main hero thinks that it was just another non-entity, and he already got rid of it without even lifting his toe. The servant informs our main hero that the power of this scaly dragon is higher than the realm of reincarnation. The fact that His Highness was able to destroy him causes him only admiration. Next, our main character tells his servant that this dragon is already dead anyway, but the person behind him is not yet, so he orders him to tell everyone to find him. It is obvious that the servant of our main hero immediately begins to carry out the order of his master. We move outside the side residence. The girl on the flying sword informs everyone in the yard that His Highness has recently been attacked, so everyone who hears this should immediately gather at the main peak to follow orders. Next, we watch the second person who, being on a flying ball, flies around and informs everyone that anyone who dares to hide from the order will be sentenced to death. This Su Yu, who is already quite old, understands that he cannot appear in front of everyone in such a terrible form. He thinks that all his efforts have gone to waste. Next, we observe how some strange golden talisman falls out of the pocket of this guy's mantle, and a strange noise comes from it. Immediately after this guy looks at this talisman, he realizes that this is a teleportation talisman. Is heaven itself helping him because he is the son of luck, and no one can defeat him? While bending over for the talisman, the guy hears conversations about what they are going to do with him. He hears that he should be captured because he disrespected His Highness and is possibly a murderer. Looking at the teleportation talisman that suddenly appeared here, this guy hopes that this is not a trap. In any case, death awaits him if he stays here any longer. A couple of moments after this guy, out of despair, decides to use this talisman that looks like a teleportation talisman. He is enveloped in red particles. Then we hear a very loud crash. Looking at the doors leading to the room that leads to this guy, we watch as someone kicks this door. But after two men who arrive to grab this guy burst into the room, they see that no one is here. They don't understand where he is. The mustachioed man smells blood, which means this is Shuishi Laozu's teleportation method absorbing the owner's blood. You need to give the order to search for this guy. Meanwhile, our protagonist's villain system notifies him that Su Yu has lost another 100 fate points, which means his status as a child of fate is completely cancelled. The loss of the status of a child of fate means that now our main character has the opportunity to kill him. For this, he will receive the divine leadership of Acheron as a reward. After His Highness reads these notifications from his system, he smiles and understands that now it's definitely time to end all this and receive a reward. Meanwhile, the mistress of this former child of fate is standing outside our protagonist's chambers, saying that she is to blame for the attack on him, and she is ready to be punished. Leaving her chambers and heading towards this waifu, our main character tells her that you will never be able to find out what kind of person he really is. It's not her fault. Continuing to reassure this woman, our main hero reports that all this happened for the reason that Su-Yu was simply very good at pretending to be someone he was not, so it was not her fault. Next, we will watch as the only mate of our main hero approaches him from behind in order to notify him that the people managed to find traces of the escaped.